Welcome back to the Lone Road iRacers podcast. I'm your host, Guy Robertson, here to guide you through all things iRacing. As we approach the end of another season, it's time to talk about a moment every iRacer knows well, the intrepid Week 13. Now, this isn't just any week, it's usually a blend of chaos, experimentation, and the chance to hit the reset button. Whether you're looking to explore new content, refine your skills, or even get your sim rig back in top condition, there's a lot you can do. So let's dive into how to make Week 13 productive, enjoyable, and maybe even transformative. So we're going to start with the fun stuff. Week 13 is when iRacing rolls out its new content, whether that is tracks, cars, and sometimes even new features or updates to the sim itself. This is our chance, the iRacers, to explore everything fresh and exciting in the service. Got your eye on a new car? Take it for a spin in test sessions or hop into a casual hosted race. Curious about the new track? Spend time getting to know its twists, turns and elevation changes without the pressure of competition. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Official races during week 13 can be, let's say, a little wild. The mix of drivers testing new content, trying out unfamiliar vehicles, or just treating the week as a free-for-all often leads to unpredictable racing. That's not to say you shouldn't join in, by all means, to have fun. Just keep in mind that this is a week to relax, explore and enjoy rather than grind for results or ratings. And as I've said there, week 13, be very strategic on what races you go in. Make sure if you're going to go in a race and you are very close to demotion, i.e. below 2 SR, or even just short of promotion, make sure if you're going into a race it is an official, because then you will know if your I rating and safety rating will be affected. That's a key point. So that's the fun stuff, folks, but clearly there's a lot of other stuff as well. So self-assessment and skill development. Now let's talk about turning week 13 into an opportunity for growth. If you're serious about improving as an iRacer, this is the prime time to focus on self-assessment. It gives you time to take a step back and think about your performance over the past season. What were your original goals? Did you achieve those goals? If not, what were your strengths and where did you struggle? For me, that's something I seriously take note of. I try and set myself some goals each season to try and at least give it a stretch as well and stretch me as an iRacer. So that's something you should consider. And it gives you then time to reflect on that. For many of us, it's easy to identify areas that need work, whether it's mastering braking zones, improving corner exits, or building endurance for longer races. And it's the concentration factor that you've got to focus on for endurance. Use this week to dive into those weak points. Set up private test sessions, for example, or time trials on tracks you're familiar with, and drill for specific skills. For instance, if you're struggling with consistent lap times, practice hitting the same braking points lap after lap. Now, I know it sounds boring, but this is a key skill, if you've listened to some of the other podcasts, that every iRacer needs. You need consistency. It's not all about doing one quick lap and then having 3 or 4 laps where you're spinning off. You're never ever going to gain anywhere in iRacing doing that. So it's all about consistency. And we all hear it everywhere, even in work at times. Consistency is key. And it is. If you find yourself losing time on corner exits, is another example. Experiment with throttle control and gear selection. Maybe you're coming out that corner a little bit too fast, too eager to put the gas fully down rather than feeding it in. And there's a simple thing to go and test to see if your actual time or your control through that corner actually gives you a better time. What about if you struggled in traffic? Consider practicing with the AI drivers to simulate close quarter racing. And we did a whole podcast last week on AI drivers and the benefits that it can really give you. The key is to focus. You're not trying to be perfect overnight. You've just finished a whole, in this case, 13-week season. Just pick one or two areas to improve and dedicate some time to them. Trust me, small gains now will pay off when the new season begins, and we all can't wait for season 1 2025. Now we're going to shift gears, literally and figuratively, and talk about sim maintenance. Week 13 isn't just a reset of your racing, it's also the perfect time to ensure your equipment is in peak condition. Here's a quick checklist for us, the iRacers, to get started. Calibrate your gear. Make sure your wheel, pedals and shifter are all properly calibrated. Check for any drifting or dead zones that might have crept in over the season. Updating software. Whether you're using a telemetry tool, overlays or other third-party apps, ensure everything is up to date. New patches or updates from iRacing might require compatibility fixes. Then what about your rig itself? If you're using a physical sim rig and not VR, inspect it for wear and tear. Tighten any loose bolts, lubricate moving parts, and clean the components to keep everything running smoothly. I've personally got one of those miniature hoovers, handheld things with a little attachment that really goes into the grooves on my 80/20 rig. It's amazing how much dust, debris from I use my just my normal trainers to racing that actually gets deposited under the rig over a full season. So yeah, I definitely recommend taking a look at your rig and making sure everything is fully tightened as we've just been through and clean and ready to go for the new season. And finally, on one of the major things that every iRacer may kind of oversight, it's your PC itself. Your computer is the backbone of your sim experience. Use this downtime to clear out old replays and setups, update drivers, and even give your machine a thorough cleaning. Yes, that includes dusting out the fans. Clearly taking care of your equipment now will ensure that everything is ready for the grind of the season to come. It's a small investment of time that makes a big difference in your overall experience. So we're going to have a short break and we're going to come back and carry on talking about week 13, but more about community and content. Welcome back to the Lone Road iRacers podcast with me, your host, Guy Robertson. So week 13 is also an amazing time to connect with the iRacing community. With official racing on hold, many drivers turn to hosted races, league events or even casual lobbies to stay active. These are great opportunities to meet new people, learn from experienced drivers, or just enjoy a bit of friendly competition without the pressure of iRating or safety rating on the line. If you're into content creation, this is your moment to shine. Share your progress, upload clips of your best or funniest moments from the season, or host a live Q&A to engage with your audience. The community is a huge part of what makes iRacing special, so don't miss the chance to be part of it. Now, We know week 13 is, as it says, just a week in time. It's also about planning for the next season. We've spoken earlier about maintaining your equipment, your rig, updating your hardware, etc., etc. But what about personal goals for season 1 2025? We're going to talk about planning for the season ahead here. Week 13 might feel like a little break, but it's also a great time to get a jump start on your goals. What series are you planning to focus on next season, for example? Are there tracks you'll need to familiarise yourself with for that upcoming season, for that specific series? Spend some time preparing. If you're entering a series with a car you haven't driven in a while, guess what? You're going to have to get some practice laps in. So this is an ideal time to do that. If there's a track that you're dreading, put in some practice to build that confidence. Use the AIs once you've got used to the track to start putting you under a little bit of pressure. Then you'll be ready for the new season. It's also a perfect time to review your setups if it's an open series. Update your files, organise your garage, and maybe even tweak a setup or two for the series you're planning to race in. Preparation here is key, and week 13 gives you the breathing room to do it without distractions. Clearly we know there's at least 4 or even maybe 5 new cars coming to the iRacing season 1 2025. What about your paint schemes? You know, there'll be brand new liveries coming out of the trading paints community for these new cars. So go and have a peruse. And if you can wait your way to my trading paints site, there'll be many, and there already is many liveries on there for you to enjoy. So there you have it. Week 13 isn't just about chaotic fun. It's a golden opportunity to reset, refocus, and basically recharge. Whether you're racing new cars, refining your skills, maintaining your gear, or planning for the season ahead, make the most of this unique time in the iRacing calendar. So I hope you enjoyed that article. It's all about week 13. And as I've said, don't forget that there's some dangers for week 13. There's always cars on crazy tracks, and some of these will be officials. So that's where you can easily get caught out, especially with your safety rating, and get demoted, or it can stop you getting promoted as well. So think on and enjoy week 13. On Tuesday, December the 10th, iRacing, as part of the Season 1 2025 update, is releasing for everybody the debris refresh. Now, I've seen footage on social media issued by iRacing themselves this week about the debris refresh, and wow, I'm a little bit worried about it. So I thought I'd do the final section of today's podcast to this specific subject. Now, this isn't just a minor tweak, it's a complete overhaul of the dynamic track debris system, promising to change how we approach racing on iRacing forever. But what does this mean for you and me as an iRacer? How will this affect your experience, strategy, and immersion? We're going to break it down. First, we're going to look about what the debris refresh actually is. Now, iRacing has revamped how debris is generated, behaves and interacts with the track, cars, and even the environment. Before I go into it, I think, okay, this is real life and it's something that we should have on the service. but we've never had. It's a bit like the rain when that was first launched. That made the track different. We had to learn about different racing lines, aquaplaning, and when to push and when not to push. Now, this is pretty much, for me anyway, as big as the launching of the rain, because this is another surface between your car's tyres, the debris, and the tarmac or the asphalt or the mud, or the surface your tyres should be in contact with. So it's going to be like driving on marbles. Now, what I've seen of the footage, clearly it's going to stick to your tyre for a certain amount of time. But then when it's coming out your tyres, that's going to be shooting off in all directions for the cars behind. So that will be interesting if it's going to damage your windscreens, for example. So let's carry on with a section. New debris types, so gravel and mud, have been introduced, adding a new layer of realism. Gravel can now be found on off-track surfaces, reducing tyre grip when brought back onto the racing surface. Meanwhile, mud behaves like a mix of dirt and water, making it a slippery challenge when it accumulates. Now, if that's quite interesting, if there's a specific area where everybody's cutting a little bit, there's going to be a lot more build-up of dirt and water. So that I can imagine that corner isn't going to change. It's going to be slippy through the whole race. Physics upgrades. The grip adjustments and physics behaviours for debris types have been fine-tuned, meaning they'll have a more realistic impact on your car's performance. Improved debris movements. Debris no longer just sits on the track, it accumulates, disperses, and moves around in a way that's far more accurate. And here's the kicker. Debris can now stick to your car's body and be shed based on speed changes. Wow. So that means that your car could have some debris wedged maybe in somewhere in the body, on the chassis, and depending on speed, it may deposit itself further on the track. Now that's really interesting. Visual enhancements. The textures and rendering of all debris types have been improved, so you'll actually see what's affecting your car, whether it's rubber, marbles, grass, dirt or gravel. Pit crew adjustments. To ensure clean starts, pit crews now sweep their stalls before each session. No more worrying about starting your race with debris under your tyres. Now that's interesting. I wonder if they've got a little bit of animation there to actually see that sweeping through your pit crew in action. That'll be good if they have, but I haven't seen any announcements, so that'll be exciting if we actually see that. But what does this mean for the iRacing community? We're going to talk about what these changes mean as a whole. For years, iRacing has prided itself on its hyper-realistic simulation, and the debris refresh takes it to the next level. Gravel and mud are going to make off-track excursions far more punishing. Forget about a quick rejoin, you'll have to deal with reduced grip until your tyres clear the debris. And now, we all know rejoins are always a problem in iRacing anyway, with people not taking due care and attention when rejoining, so now there's even more jeopardy. This is huge for immersion, but it also means you'll need to be more precise with your lines. Going wide in a corner now carries greater consequences, and managing debris could become a strategic element during races. Speaking of strategy, let's talk about tyre management. With the updated system, debris pickup is influenced by the construction and track wetness. If you're racing in a variable weather race, expect your tyre strategy to evolve. Do you push hard through a muddy section, knowing you'll sacrifice grip temporarily, or do you take a more cautious approach to maintain performance? The introduction of aerodynamic effects on debris also mean that cars will physically move debris around, so racing in traffic could add another layer of complexity. Drafting just got a little messier, I suppose. With debris accumulation and dispersion being so dynamic, no two racers will feel the same. A heavily contested track will see rubber marbles piling up on the racing line, forcing drivers to adapt their approach. Overtaking opportunities could become more unpredictable as grip levels vary throughout the race. For league racing, this opens up new challenges. Drivers and teams will need to adapt to changing track conditions in real time, potentially shifting race strategies on the fly. So how can we prepare for the debris refresh? The best way to adapt is to jump into private test sessions once the update drops. Experiment with how gravel and mud affect your lap times and handling. Get a feel for how much grip you lose when you pick up debris and figure out how to clear it effectively. With debris being more dynamic, keeping to the cleanest part of the track will become even more crucial. Focus on maintaining precise lines to avoid unnecessary pickups. If you're the type of driver who likes to push the limits of the track, you might need to reel it in a bit. Staying on track and minimizing mistakes will pay off more than ever here. In league or team races, communication will be key. Spotters and teammates can help you identify debris-heavy areas, giving you an edge over competitors. Now, that's going to be interesting for the users of spotters that aren't iRacing, maybe crew chief, Dre, and other things like that. They're clearly going to have updates, and as we spoke earlier, make sure you've got all these third-party sources updated, ready for the new season. As exciting as this update is, there are a few potential challenges for us, the iRacing, in the community. We have a learning curve. New debris dynamics will require time to adapt, especially for newer drivers, and that was similar to the rain as I mentioned earlier. The improved textures and physics could put additional strain on lower end systems. If you're in older hardware, it might be time to upgrade to keep up with the visuals and performance demands. League admins and other race organisers may need to revise track limits and penalty systems to account for how debris impacts racing lines and rejoin behaviours. The debris refresh is shaping up to be a game changer, folks, for iRacing. As I said, it's not just a new feature, it's a fundamental shift to how we approach racing, from strategy to skill development. Whether you're a casual racer or a serious competitor, this update is sure to make every session more immersive, challenging and rewarding. Good luck. Anybody that's got some feedback on their thoughts as once it's dropped and we've all tried it in maybe week 14 as it is now, or week 1 season 2025, please drop me an email with your thoughts. The address is in the show notes, because this is going to be as big as rain as far as I'm concerned. The amount of cars that will be spinning off through gravel on the track that some other racers deposited, we're all going to be affected by that. So good luck. Well, that's the end of another podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed it. Next week's will be a bit of a Christmas special, so we're looking forward to that. Don't forget to share the podcast with your fellow iRacers, friends, family, and anybody else that's interested. As we've said, we've had a couple of interviews recently. Anybody that wants to come and be a guest on any specific subject, please send me an email or drop me a Facebook Messenger from the Facebook page. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Week 14 as it will be, in brackets week 13. to get to drive Thruxton, get to drive some of the new cars as well, and of course paint them up. And the launch of season 1. Hope you have a good week next week, and I'll see you on the track soon. Happy iRacing!